Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the danjohnuniversity.com podcast. This is episode number 81. Let's get going. We have a question from Eric. 3 years ago, I brought a 16K kettlebell trying to address my poor physique. 18 months later, I was in the best shape of my life, and I have sets of kettlebells from 16 to 32. That's great. Due to divorce, I haven't worked out in a year, and I'm back on square one. I'm 46 years old, 6'4", and weigh in 230. First off, my heart goes out to you. I hope things work out, and I hope everyone involved is doing okay. I'm looking to achieve fat loss mainly as I need to lose like 30 pounds. How should I go about this? Should I stick to the lighter kettlebells or do complexes or also incorporate grinding lifts with heavier bells? Boy, there's the whole laundry list right there. Would love to hear your thoughts on a concise program. First and foremost, it's interesting because generally people go the opposite direction during divorce. They lose weight. Though I guess I've talked to some people who have gained weight, but fat loss happens in the kitchen. Fat loss happens in the kitchen. Fat loss happens in the kitchen. So there's a couple things I would be concerned about with you. First, how are you sleeping? And then how is your food preparation? And then down the line, number 3 is your exercise programs. Really, what you've done in the past probably is your template for you in the future. Doing the complexes, I think, have great value. Pat Flynn really pushes complexes. I like complexes just fine, absolutely. Though where I'm at in my life, I don't do a lot of them. For me, complexes are something you do in the summer and fall. I use them to prepare myself for weightlifting contests and things like that. But boy, they really can turn on the burn. So yeah, if you have some solid complexes, yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Look at your sleep hygiene. Are you sleeping in a dark room? Are you getting those 8 or 9 hours, whatever is appropriate for you? Are you doing appropriate food prep? Are you eating vegetables at every meal? Is there a wide selection of vegetables? Are you drinking water? Okay, put that to the side. And then, yeah, complexes. It might be kind of a fun thing to put the heavier bells away for a while, drag that original 16 out, and I don't know, maybe for 2 weeks, just do a bunch of complexes and take little notes about which ones you like the best. And then from there, go on your way up. Eric, I hope the best for you. I know things are tough sometimes in life, and thanks for sharing, and I hope things work out for you. Thank you. We have a question from Dave. Recommendations often go along the lines of do this for 6 weeks and then switch to something else. Yeah. I find this perfectly understandable. After all, anything works for 6 weeks. But I wonder how this ties into long-term development. First off, I say that a lot, but I also say something even more important with it. After those 6 weeks, you do the same thing, but different. Same, but different. 3 words, 1 comma. Same, but different. For me, I'm a big believer that, if you're going to do something like bench press for 6 weeks, which is pretty good for an adult male, you would shift over to inclines and then declines and then military. That's how we train shot putters, how I train shot putters. If you're going to do goblet squats for 6 weeks, doing overheads after that is kind of a game changer. Wow, this is different. And after about 6 weeks overhead squats, for most people, you kind of tapped out the fun and games. So what you said is right, but just make sure you keep it, what I say, a little bit more reasonable. You don't do marathon training for 6 weeks and then an intense deadlift only program. Though, to be honest, that would be interesting. If one quits a program after 6 weeks, how does one get long-term progress in a core lift? As a concrete example, this year, one of my goals as an upper intermediate lifter is to add 5 kilos to my overhead press, which is currently at body weight or 100 kilos. If I do a 6-week program that adds a kilo or 2, then switch to something else, how do I keep progressing on the press? Well, Dave, pressers press, squatter squat. I think you've taken this this phrase and made it into a rule. Um, Obviously, you and I gain strength at radically different rates. But if your goal is to increase your press, then you stick on that press, and you just keep working at it. And once you get to that goal, if it's that important to you, then I'd walk away from pressing entirely for a while. But you can do, if it's a clean and press, you can do step back from a rack and press. You can go to one knee and press. You can go to both knees and press. You can do variations of the press, press, and press, with just subtle variations in between. I think you might have taken a guideline and turned it into a law, and that happens a lot. I think with 100 kilo press at 100 kilos, I don't know what you look like or if you're born to press or not, but adding 5 kilos, yeah, certainly it might take some time, but practicing the press might be the most valuable thing for you to do versus pushing the press, trying to drive those numbers up. I hope that helps. Keep guidelines, and laws, if you can help it, okay? Thanks, Dave, and good luck to you. We have a question from Scott. Hi, Scott. My son has since graduated high school, but I distinctly remember him telling me after one of his home games that his coach had them in the weight room doing heavy squats before the game. That does show up sometimes. I know that, in fact, many of us argue that a team that should have won the Super Bowl lost because they were training so heavy in the weight room, getting ready for the game. Having coached at a high school program before, I could not wrap my head around why a coach would have players doing such a thing before a game. It could be simply this, is that the coach read something about Charlie Francis, which Charlie Francis even said was not true, about doing squats before sprinting to activate the muscles. I don't think you need a lot of activation to play a high school football game. I remember the second Coach Young led us through the gates, I was ready to go, once you run out on that field. But maybe some people do need some time in the weight room. This is unusual. I'm not saying it's wrong, it's unusual. In your many years at coaching football, did you ever have the players in the weight room lifting before a game? No, never. Before a track meet, did you ever have your throwers or runners doing snatches or power cleans before competition? I had them snatch and clean between throws at practice, but never in competition, because, making there's enough going on. The day of a track meet, I don't think you need to add any more mental stress for the coaching staff. Is there anything in the training literature that you have seen that would recommend this kind of practice? And as I said, when I heard Charlie Francis debunk this, I was there with my good friend and dietitian Lyle McDonald, and Lyle every so often would have to turn to me and explain to me what was going on because I kept getting lost in the conversation. Turned out later on I wasn't the only one. But, is doing lifting before, can it work? It might, but I got to tell you, that is if it does work, it would have to be done with a lot of practice beforehand. I wouldn't wait for the day of the Super Bowl or the Olympic trials to do that. I would practice this maybe over a 4-year program with an athlete and see how that athlete responds. Sure, I've heard of it. I also heard it discounted, so it's something I don't practice. In my career, I have never been a fan of lifting and then throwing. I've always been a fan of lifting after your sport. This is my experience. I'm not saying either is right or wrong, and that's only because I would much rather the athlete focus on the event, spend the time out there on the field or the track or the pitch or whatever, getting the reps in, and then using the weight room as much time as we have. We would focus on the most important things. Generally, like you said, the Olympic lifts and the squatting movement, and a loaded carry. So, yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm not I don't think I'm a fan of it. Thanks for asking. We have a question from Davis. Davis says this: have you personally noticed the benefits of the horizontal row in your own athletic performance career? I would have to say no, I have not. The horizontal row, the problem we have, especially when you work with power athletes, is we turn the row into an explosive power clean, and you throw it up and then you bounce it against your chest. It's just momentum. That's why I came up with that exercise called bat wings years ago, the isometric hold. So I'm face down on the bench. I have 2 kettlebells and my thumbs are on my armpits, and maybe I'm holding on to 12 or 16 pound weights for 10 or more seconds. No value at all. I'm sure there's someone listening who'll say, no, the rows changed my life, and then they'll have a bunch of questions. I have never seen them do any value in performance. I've never had an athlete get anything out of them. I'm sure there's people who are going to argue that they're the best exercise ever because that's just the way of the world. But for me, no. And thanks for asking, Davis, okay? We have a question from Eric, with a C, by the way, which is very good. I love the original Humane Burpee, and I also love the one-arm kettlebell press. Yeah, me too. Recently, I found myself short on time, so I began substituting the push-up for the press. My question, okay, so that's not going to be a Humane Burpee anymore. That's going to be something else. The reason we have the push-up in there isn't for the push work. It's to get you up and down off the ground to drive that heart rate up. My question is, when I perform the Humane Burpee with the push-up, I use a 32-kilo kettlebell, but I struggle to strict press it for reps. However, if I do the workout with the 24-kilo to allow for better pressing, the goblet squats and swings feel almost too easy. Should I up the number of swings in the workout to 20, utilize both bells, or just do the workout the way it was written? Doing something the way it's written. So after all those years of experimenting and all those people doing it and all the feedback I got, you decided to change it and you notice you're having problems. That's unusual. Why don't you just do the workout and then take that 32 and get your press workout in? I don't know why you need to, make it, unless there's a time issue or something, or there's a good issue. I'm not saying there's anything bad. Ramping the numbers up to 20, that's really tough on the grip. I think we've tried that in the past. I know there's a workout, 20 swings, 20 push-ups, 19 swings, 19 push-ups, and that was just hellacious. Fun workout, but not fun. Really difficult workout, but you certainly can do 20 and then the humane numbers after. But like I said, I would just stick as programmed. But if you want to try it, just keep going, Eric, and see what you can invent out of it. I like the idea, especially if you're doing half kneeling presses, because that would at least get you partially up and down off the ground. But it's interesting. But so you have a lot of options, and I would suggest you keep practicing them. All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. We have a question from Rob. I personally don't have too much interest in the bench press, as I prefer pressing overhead. I just feel stronger doing it, and I came to the same conclusion. However, after doing some cycles of easy strength, I feel I need to take a break from overhead pressing. Do you have any recommendations for what presses I could look to do? I am thinking press-ups or dips, but I'm interested if you have any ideas of what else to do. The one thing about easy strength, you don't have to do just one press. There is the one variation every 2 weeks where you switch around the press a little bit. If you're doing overhead presses, if you have kettlebells, you could go to doubles. You could go to just one hand press, left, right, half kneeling press, left knee down, left hand, right knee down, right hand. You can play around with that. I like the idea of doing dips. We've had a number of people try dips on easy strength. If you're born to dip, it works. If you're not, you'll know within about a week that this isn't a good choice for you. Some people get a lot of stress and tension here in the sternum. Other people start to feel that just their shoulders starting to rip out a little bit. You know, that noise in the shoulders when you're being stupid. Um, so if you're with a barbell, I would still say that the press is the best option. You might want to vary it between the clean and press to the rack. Just step back and press it variation. I do find it interesting that you're bored overhead pressing, because I never get bored overhead pressing. Well, check that. I have yet to get bored overhead pressing. I've been doing it since 1965, so I feel like I have a nice track record. I hope that helps. Thank you. We have a tough question from Sam, and I'll do my best to answer it. I am recently taking a night shift job, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Boy, I know that one. 2 consecutive nights a week to pay my way through university, studying to become a teacher. Boy, I hope it's worth it. I remember you have mentioned that you had worked night shifts jobs previously and wanted some advice on how to adjust my normal days, usually wake up at 5:30, bed at 10, and the night shift hours. Sam, I don't know how to do it. It's interesting you say that. I remember coming down, this is a million years ago, coming down to Salt Lake with another friend who worked night shifts. And about 3 in the morning, we visited his sister down here. This is when we're up in Logan. And we dropped by and made pancakes at 3:30 in the morning because we were both absolutely 100% wide awake. I mean, total wide awake. And when the weekend would come and I would try to flip my schedule over to normal, it was so difficult. It's tough. Now, the upside is you're a night shift, not swing shift. Swing shift, as I was told, is the most unhealthy of the 3 shifts because you're kind of opposite everybody else. When you're night shift, you can watch must-see TV. You can have dinner, you can have must-see TV, and you can be home in time to have breakfast with your kids, which isn't necessarily perfect, but it's not bad. Oh, and God bless night shifters during the COVID crisis. Oh, having the kids up all day. Whew, I don't know how you'd pull it off. It's going to be the basics. Sleep hygiene is going to be more important than ever now. Dark room, cool bed. I would wear eye shades. If you can, I use brain.fm. Put those, put the earphones in and put that meditation music on. And I just wish you luck, Sam. There is no perfect answer here, but just for a while, just remind yourself, this helped me a ton, that one day I would look back and laugh about that tough year. It'd have been 80, 81 for me when I worked nights. It was when my mom died too. Check that. It would have been 80, just 80. And it was tough, but one thing that kept me going is I kept telling myself, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. So hang in there, and you're doing something honorable and respectful. Some areas of your life are going to have to diminish a little bit. That's okay. You're doing great. Thank you for what you're doing. Bye-bye. Phil asks an interesting question. If you were running the NFL Combine to assess incoming players, what tests would you use? Well, I would throw out the bulk of them. Most of the time, once it is funny now how much emphasis they put on hands for quarterbacks now. And I remember when the Utah Jazz drafted someone years ago, and I was at a meeting and someone was complaining about their hands were too small. I just felt like they just didn't want them. Wingspan is a big one in the league now. What tests? Well, I throw out that bench press test. I mean, I'd throw that out today. I probably would move to 1 inch above the knee rack deadlift, just to see how, maybe give them three tests there, just to get a sense of how much pure base strength they have. Just a rack deadlift, 1 inch, 2 inches above the knee, whatever you guys, it doesn't matter. I would stick with the vertical jump and the standing long jump, because those give you some absolute numbers that you can look out downstream. I would probably honestly cut back on the number of tests. Instead of having the 40-yard sprint, I'd have a 20 meter fly or a 20-yard fly where you go into the speed trap at top speed and come out on the other, because those numbers are, people are cheating. So, well, not cheating. They've so manipulated the 40-yard dash time that you're not getting real information back. Maybe a 30-meter fly if that's important. And then some kind of very basic explosive kind of thing. It could be as simple as a medicine ball throw. I mean, it doesn't have to be too much, just so you'd have some numbers. I don't want people training for the combine. I think that distorts the numbers. You can train for the vertical jump. You can train for the standing long jump. You certainly could train for that rack deadlift, the medicine ball. You could, but you really can't trick the test. There's no one out there going, well, here's a way to trick the flying 30-meter, test. So you get up as fast as you can. You hit the first speed trap, and then you go 30 meters and come out the second, and then you have this raw number, and that it's real hard to cheat that test. You're just going to find out how fast somebody is. When I hear high school kids, mom and dad are spending money to trick the high school combine, I'm like, this is just nonsense. I once said this about an aptitude test, and I got attacked, but I always felt that if you have to study for a collegiate aptitude test, then maybe you don't have the aptitude. That got me in a lot of trouble. But we'll move on. So those would be basically my test. Nothing perfect there, but get rid of that. Try to get rid of the test that you can train up for. Okay? Thanks. It's kind of a fun question. I haven't heard it before in a while. Haven't heard it before. Haven't discussed it in a while. Thank you. Bye-bye. We have a question from Vladimir. Since I started doing kettlebell snatches, single 20-kilo bell and a double 16, I've noticed significant hypertrophy in my biceps. Can you explain to me why? Well, first off, that your DNA is lucky you get biceps. And I think it's just simply this. I think, as I recall from my vague knowledge of hypertrophy and bodybuilding work, anytime you do eccentric, the braking actions, that's going to cause more growth. So every time you throw the bell down and you break it, your bicep is popping and being, forced through the speed of the bell and the load of the bell to fight it, and that might be helping you with your hypertrophy, with your bicep getting bigger. I know that when I go to kettlebell certs, some of the people who have been really focusing on like a test, like the Secret Service test, like that's the 10-minute variation, they'll notice, they'll say the same thing. I can't believe how much this muscle's growing and how I tend to have lost that. You can only chase so many rabbits. I hope that helps. I think that's the truth, though, Vladimir. It's an interesting question, and it reminds me of the perfect-bodied young lady on the beach in a bikini, lamenting that she put on half a pound of fat. So, yeah, Vladimir, you're kind of lucky. All right, thank you. We have a question from Ron. Ron says this. So I had a surgery for a sports hernia and an inguinal hernia 3 years ago. It's funny. I had it and I don't know how to say it. The doctor went in a certain procedure. 8 months after the surgery, I tore the mesh on the hernia. So they opened me up and reinforced the mesh. The doctor was shocked that I was able to tear the mesh. I felt it doing a trap bar deadlift with a relatively lightweight 320 pounds. Ever since then, whenever I do any exercise that requires me to tighten my core muscles, for instance, squats, bear crawls, deadlifts, kettlebell swings, things like that, the area gets irritated. The doctor, mind you, this is the same doctor that told me I couldn't tear the mesh, says the area is solid. I'm not going to give you medical advice, but one thing I might suggest is you might need another doctor here, okay? I haven't really done anything consistently or any type of rhyme or reason since the surgery. I have access to just about everything except machines. I have a power rack, sandbags, kettlebell, prowler, and sled. I can live with the discomfort. I really can't live with the thought of having a third surgery. Well, you might want to rethink that thought. When the area gets irritated, I'm guessing it's scar tissue, but I'm not a doctor. Nor am I, Ron. What I'm really after is to be more athletic. I don't have any interest in competing in powerlifting any longer. I just want to be stronger and more athletic, especially as I get older. I know I need to work on my mobility because I'm as flexible as a 2x4. I'm 5'10", about 195 pounds. I'm guessing I'm carrying about 20% body fat, maybe a little more. With all that being said, I guess my question is, what would you be doing if you were me? What would I be doing? I would call up Dr. Brunetti and I would say, hey, we had this surgery, had an issue. I'd go in, we'd sit down and we'd talk and we'd plan out what to do. I had a little problem with my mesh too. Fortunately, it's not a big issue, but this doesn't sound right to me. This does not sound right. I hate to have you go in for a third surgery because, there are, risks, but I just am concerned when I read this from top to bottom. I was fine within weeks of my little belly button hernia, and I've never, I worried one time, but I've never really looked back. I would go get some more medical intervention here, and I wish you luck, okay? Thank you. Tyler asks a question. I'm wondering if you have any advice that would help me get my elbows up parallel to the ground when the weight is racked on my shoulders faster during power cleans. Yeah, Tyler, it'd be nice to be able to see a video on this, but generally here's what I get when people don't get in this position, is they're not cleaning. They're doing a fast deadlift followed by a reverse curl. Once that barbell gets about 2 inches above the knees, you should be in a perfect hinge position, like you're in a swing, and you should jump, and the arms just become steel wires that whip and come around. Almost universally, people who don't get in this position do some kind of weird lift, which isn't a clean. And you can get away with that for a long time until the weight gets heavy or until the weight gets heavy. And then all of a sudden you pay a high price. So the word I use when the barbell slides above the 2-inch position is jump, jump, jump. And I'm wondering out loud if maybe you're not jumping. The drill we use to teach this is called the 1-inch drill. You start with the bar on the floor, you pick it up 1 inch and you pause. Another inch and you pause. Another inch and you pause. You get below your knees, you pause. You slide it above your knees, you pause. And then I say 3, 2, 1, jump. And by doing that very, very slow, clean deadlift, it positions you for a really good power clean. I hope that helps. Be sure to go to my free book, From the Ground Up, on danjohn.net. Read up on this, and this might help you. Thank you. We have a question from Sasa. What do you think about Bulgarian training methods, working up to 1 rep maximum every day on a certain lift? That's not it. For powerlifting and or Olympic lifting. No, you're supposed to work up to 6 times a day. So that'd be a morning heavy snatch, a heavy clean and jerk, a heavy front squat. Afternoons, a heavy snatch, a heavy clean and jerk, a heavy front squat. Evenings, perhaps, heavy snatch, heavy clean and jerk, heavy front squat. If you have 100,000 people doing the sport, you'll end up with 6 people on your national team, and they're going to be good. When it first came out, I looked into it, I tried it, like everybody else, without a full staff support, without support of medical intervention, and you know what I mean by medical intervention. I don't think it's possible. And also, too, I wasn't born to Olympic lift, so it was different. I think there's value to it, obviously, because it's what you have to do to be on the top end. Is it reasonable for a normal person? The bulk of the population? No. I hope that helps. Thank you. Well, we have another Humane Burpee question. Adam asks, in your HKC book, you present the Humane Burpee workout and it became a favorite of mine. I recently heard Pat Flynn, who I discovered through your podcast, a every minute on the minute workout that involved on the first and second minute performing swings and on the third minute doing an upper body grind such as push, up, dip, overhead press. My question, okay, my question is the swing one or two arm sufficient as an upper body pull? Should additional pull movements be worked into my programming? Yeah, overall, yeah. I don't think the swing does enough for the pull. The way I teach it and the way I hammer it home, I think it's pretty good, but I still think there's a need for some pulling movements. Most of the reason I think that is because I work with Americans, Adam, and most male Americans have shoulder issues caused by too much pushing in their career. So I have to include them. It can be as simple as hanging from a bar. It can be pull-ups. It can be, really appropriately done rows where you pause for a second or two in that position. But yeah, I do think there is a need for just pure pulling movements. I don't think you have to go too crazy. At my gym, every single day we use a suspension trainer and do the T's, the Y's, the I's, the rows, the one-arm rows, because it's so important that I just think we need to make sure we do it every day. If it's important, do it every day. So in my world, every day we do the pull family, lots and lots of high reps, because the bulk of the people I work with need extra this kind of work. And I just don't think, and it's also a great way to warm up for me. So I hope that helps. So yes, you can do something as simple as that. Mike Brown leads me through daily. I would say we probably go for 12 minutes. And we add some mobility work and flexibility work on the trainers, of course. But the bulk of it is pull, 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 pull. So yeah, I think there's some real value there. Boy, I hope that helps. Well, that's the end of our podcast today. I hope that helped. Reminder, if you have questions, send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every question. And remember, many of these questions have been gone over before, so be sure you look through my YouTube station and have some fun. I have almost 2,000 videos now, so enjoy. Thank you.